Good evening, everyone. I would like to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the class this week and how we're going to progress, and maybe some of the things that you've had a chance to look at and start talking about. And we'll try to be a little bit more active this week, I think, because we're at that point where we're ready for it. So first, I want to back up to what I put on earlier and thank everybody who participated last week when I asked you about the most valuable game in the world and revealed the answer being the English League Championship final. And this week, because of some of the material that's in the class, I think you can see the logic behind that. I think you can see why that is a logical answer. That moving up to the top division of English football allows a team more exposure, particularly more TV revenue, more fixtures with more teams in, say, Europe, if they get that well, do that well. It is just a tremendous move up. It's like going from AAA baseball to the major leagues in the U.S. That's the difference. And that's why that game, which happens every year, is for many people across the world a game between two relatively obscure teams, at least if you're not in England, but it is vastly important. And what we were hoping to start illustrating this week is a couple of things about why is that important? Why do contests like that make so much difference? And it's in how teams generate value. Not just how do they make money, how do they generate value. So you notice this week we have pretty much two things going on. Still some basic accounting reviews, and those are tough for some people because you've never seen accounting before. Some of you have seen a little bit of it, and maybe this is a refresher course. So what I tried to provide you with was a couple of pieces of material that would talk about pretty much not doing accounting, reading accounting, all right? Reading data, reading financial reports, so that you understand what these reports mean. And just in a very quick review, 3 basic accounting reports. Income statement, that tells you what went on over a period of time. Essentially, do we make a profit or do we lose money across a period of long time? Balance sheet, commonly misused term that people who don't have familiarity with accounting think that's the summary statement of be all and end all, that's what's there. Balance sheet is just a snapshot. It is a picture of a moment in time that says, what do we own? What do we owe? That's all it is, right? And it states the position, the financial health at that single moment. As soon as that balance sheet is finished, it's essentially obsolete. The last one is a cash flow statement. Some books call it the statement of change in financial position, but it's a cash flow statement. It's when does the money come in? How long does it stay? How long does it take to go through the organization? When does it go out? And not only when, but where does it come from? What does it do while we have it? And where does it go? Those are the real three really most important statements that you'll look at. And our way of presenting them, I thought, was if you go down midway down through the unit, we have the only American professional football team that is publicly held, publicly traded, that you can buy, that people buy stock in, okay? It's the Green Bay Packers, and they have to publish their annual report because they are publicly traded. And what you see there is a way to go in and read an annual report. You'll see a lot of narrative about the Packers, what they do, how their season was, how their business progressed, where they spent their money, what's their marketing plans, all these kind of things. But in the end, there's the financial statements in there. So the question for you this week to look at it is take a look at that after you've gone through the accounting stuff and say, do I understand it? Does this give it context? Does this allow me to maybe make some decisions about, what's the business of the Green Bay Packers look like? And that's why we're doing that. Okay? So those are kind of the nuts and bolts stuff there. But the other thing we want to introduce this week is how do sports teams make money? How do they generate value? What's their objective, really? Why are they in business? And what are the venues that they have? What are the avenues, really, I should say, that they have for doing their business, right? where's the money come from? And one of the trends I think you'll see if you go through the material carefully this week, you start to see that some of it depends on what level you're at. Meaning, Major League Baseball in the US, NHL, NFL, NBA. Those guys are in a different stratosphere, right? And where do they get their money? They get their money from television, essentially. But when you get into that, it even breaks down there. National TV money versus regional versus local. As soon as you come down a tier, say into a minor league sport, that's when things start to shift. So you'll hear me argue frequently that at the major league level, ticket sales, while they're great, and yes, it's a big chunk of money, they're not as important as television, broadcast, rights, sponsorship. And if you look at the charts we put in there, the New York teams by the numbers, I think that even though it's about 6 years old, the relationships between those pie graphs just hasn't changed at all. You'll see that the bulk of the money comes from TV revenue. Now, between the sports that are represented there, you'll see there's a difference. The NFL really relies on television, right? You get down to basketball and baseball, they are a little bit more localized, and hockey even more. But the thing is, just think of what that would look like if we jumped down a league, say to minor league baseball or to the G League in basketball. The story would be different. And college sports is an even different story, and we're going to look at that later in some detail. But what I'm trying to say for us here is we've got this week and last, and coming into this week, we've got a chance to start looking at things in a different perspective. How do teams generate money? And is it making money or is it building value that they're after? And a little hint. Most major professional teams, the real pursuit that they're after is not so much making a profit. What they are in the pursuit of is the gaining in value. And that's when you see teams look at the Dallas Cowboys, and this is one of the things we use them as an example often. Really, they haven't won anything in 25 years. They're the most valuable team in the world. Why? They know how to build their business around building value. So those are just some of the things I'd like to get out in front of people this week. It's a little bit different way of looking at things for many of us. And it's important that you just take your time and go through it. Look at the presentation we have from the panel about sports and the sports markets for upcoming time frame. Look at the charts on where people make their value. Look at the video about how NFL teams make money. Think about the answer to the trick question and why it was so important. And start to think about looking at that Green Bay Packers example and say, gee, do I think I have a financially healthy organization? So that being said, I will try to be in touch with everybody later this week. This is the evening of President's Day, so hopefully everybody's had a day off and a chance to catch up on things. And this is when we're going to start looking at things in a little more detail. So it's important that if you haven't looked at the material for this week, get that done early in the week. There is the assignment about writing about the Packers financial statements and a couple of discussions about value. We're going to want to do this in a little more detail. Okay, thanks very much. Bye.